There we go. Now we're live. We are live. Okay. Everybody within the sound of my voice, come on in here. Good evening, everybody. Hey, Roy. How's everybody up there in northern Michigan today? Hey, JD. Yeah, I thought I was going to be a little late tonight, but I had a trailer I was unloading, and I only unloaded half of it so I could make sure I got here on time. Hey, James. 54 and sunny in northwest Michigan. Well, that's pretty good for northwest Michigan. Hi, Ben. Wait for a few more to get in here. Did everybody see the schedule for speakers that was posted late last night, early this morning for Nobby? Hello, Hope. Good evening. Hey, Keith.
Hey.
Good evening, Charlie.
Yeah, late like you. Just got back from sub shop.
I can barely hear you.
Now you can hear me.
Now I can hear you.
I had to turn the microphone on.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be late, but I only unloaded half the trailer and it came on home.
Well, it's the guy laying over or what? Or they dropped the trailer?
No, it was my trailer.
Oh, your trailer.
I went to North Carolina today and picked up equipment. Yeah, the speaker
Getting ready
schedule,
for Nobby. Hey, Keith.
The speaker schedule for Nobby is a good lineup. It's got a lot of different topics, and there's a couple of them on there that should be really important to everybody, and that's the nutrition ones. We should really pay attention to nutrition ones this time of year.
And who was? I mean, I haven't seen the list yet. I was watching the biggest exciting thing that I seen over the weekend was Bob Binney's second part for the extended release.
Well, I'm gonna share my screen so everybody can see it.
Randy wants to know, you got your beans and corn done?
Yeah, we're working on it.
That's good.
So this is the schedule for the speaker schedule here. And it's a pretty good schedule. This one by Dr. Priya Basu, both of those, that's the nutrition one. The two talks on nutrition. Blake Shook is going to do a good one on building and selling nukes. And Dr. Reinkovic is going to do a good one on using genetics and genomics for controlling a Varroa mite.
Yeah, we had him Zoom into our club meeting this past Wednesday. The only problem we had was his microphone was echoing, and hard to hear him.
Yeah.
He was talking about the Varroa resistant to amatraz.
Yeah. That's what he's doing here. So it's going to be a good conference, I think. A lot of different speakers instead of the same old ones.
Well, like the what's his name from down there in Asheville? He was on Bob's thing. He's going to talk about more about extended relief.
Yeah.
Oxalic acid.
Yep.
He had the video him and Bob put out this past Sunday was just chock full of information about
Yep.
size of the strips, the comparisonation, and of the how much better Varroa control was with the 4 strips versus the 2 strips. Greg Rogers, thank you, Brian and Keith. And what was really I liked was his Varroa mite treatment program, and which was pretty close to mine. The only thing that with my treatment program, I do OA throughout the winter and early spring. And then April, May, and June is my honey season, which I never would treat with anything while the honey super's on. Now they're treating with OA, which I know is approved, but is there evidence at all that it messes up with your honey? And then another thing I was thinking about was you got those 4 strips in there. Well, can the bees, I guess the bees will get around the strips and go up to the supers and drop off the honey and stuff like that.
Yeah. But OA doesn't penetrate the capping, so it doesn't mess with your honey. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Mike. So his kind of like taking mine and Greg's and the other guys that he had some of his helpers and stuff. Seemed like to me that he put the oxalic acid pads on, I think it was right around mid-May or May.
Yeah.
May, June, and July. And then he came back with, I don't know, Thiamol or Formic Pro, which for me, my situation is I would use next year, would use Thiamol. I'm going to say mid-July to mid-June, and then have a break, and then hit in September with Formic Pro. And then I would do OA, let's say the 1st of November through February, maybe one treatment early March. It kind of depends on the weather. I think by that time. And then I would go ahead, and it sounded like to me that I would, if you use the extended release pads, put them in on 1st of April, 1st or middle of April, May, and June, and then take them off, and I would hit them with April Guard myself. So instead of, like I tell people, I treat 8 months out of the year. With that concept, I would be treating 12 months out of the year.
Just about, yeah.
I mean, you'll have some breaks in there, several weeks. I'll say 2 or 3 weeks break between one treatment to the next, but not sure what I'd do all that, but.
So when you treat with all the oxalic acid like that, Charlie, are you just trying to do a holding pattern on your mites, or are you trying to get a knockdown?
I'm always trying to knock them. I'm always trying to reduce them down as kill every damn last one of them.
Yeah.
Right now, this past weekend, I did my second OA treatment. I was 2 weeks apart. I'm watching the drop board, sticky board, or whatever you want to call it, chloroplast board. And now the first week I did it on a Saturday, came back on a Sunday. I found one nuke that had a tremendous amount of drop. And I found actually about 4 hives that I thought were more mites. When you pulled the sticky board out and looked at it, they just kind of the amount of mites just kind of jumped out at you. Whereas the rest of the hives, I'm like, okay, I'm looking at it, the board, and I'm examining it, and I'm like, okay, where's the mites at? And oh, there's one over there, and oh, there's one over there. I had to look for them to see them. So that's what it's not so much. I'm not counting the amount of mites. I'm looking at, is it pronounced? Is it a tremendous amount where they just jump out at you? You didn't have to look. They're just there right in your smack dab in your face. And the 2 last hives, the purple hive and the yellow hive at the end down there had that. So that was a Sunday. I vaped them again the next, that day. I came back this past Saturday, and I, of course, pulled every one of them boards out and looked at them because they'd been a week or more, and then cleaned them off. And those 2 last hives out there, they had a good amount of. Before I vaped them the second time on that Sunday, I cleaned them boards off again, put them back in, hit them with OA, came back. That would be a week, 2 weeks later. And they had a good amount of mites on that board. And
so you'd say it was a significant drop. Mite drop.
Yeah, I mean, it was a drop to where, there was enough mites on there that just it just jumped out at you. There's the mites.
Yeah.
Whereas if you get there and you pull the board out, I'm like, okay, there's a bunch of trash here. Now let's see if we can find some mites. If I have to sit there and kind of hunt for them, and there might be 20 mites on there, but I have to hunt for them. That's not a heavy infestation. And I don't bust my hives open now since it's cold, winter.
Right.
And I'm not going to do any, washes and stuff.
Not this time of year, no.
No. So, hey, Philip. Darren.
How's it going, Philip?
Watched your video today, Darren. So I hit them. I cleaned all the boards off as I was, clean a bunch of them off, then go and vape, and then once I got into my 10 framers, then I could kind of clean them off while the machine's working and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the nukes were pretty clean this time around from the last time I vaped them, especially the one nuke that was real pronounced amount of mites. They didn't have that presentation. It was, I'm looking at them. Yeah, there's a mite there, and there's a mite here, and a mite there, but nothing to go out and just grab your eyes. And so, I mean, and the rest of them were minimal amount of mites. There might be 15 or 20 mites on there. Some of them you might only have about 6 and all that. So, I guess it's like it's the science behind it today is to, hey, Randy, and so the science is to take and suppress your mite load and keep it low continuously across the 12 months out of the year.
Yep.
And that's what I kind of, some people will like Greg Rogers and them that from what I've seen of their notes and stuff on the videos, they came in December and January, and then it wasn't clear on how many they hit them. I'll say 2 times in December, one guy did, and 2 times in January. Then they came back with their OA pad, or no, they might have, somebody did a Formic. He was talking about doing a Formic treatment in, I think, May. Well,
Yeah, it's possible
that's, huh?
it's possible to do it in May if your temperature and your humidity is low. You can do that.
Well, for me, that's peak honey season. So I don't do that. I come out of the winter, I'll say at low mite load, and then March, April, May, maybe one treatment in March, but April, let's say April, May, and June is my honey months. July this year definitely was a honey month, but I was, I didn't want any what do you call it? Spotted lantern honey in there. That usually comes in after the 15th of July or so, close to August. But now we'll have to say our spotted lanternfly population is way less. But there was a huge honey flow in July and August, or in July this year. Where it come from, I've asked people and nobody knows. So then I usually the second or third, about the third week of July, I put my Apivar strips in, which if you count it out 6 weeks, it goes to the end of August. And then this year on the 2nd of September, Formic Pro came in because the humidity and heat was low. It was perfect for that product.
Yeah, Roy, up in your area, that time of spring, the temperature probably is just right for Formic in May. But here, where Charlie and I are, when you get the later you get in May, the higher your temperatures are climbing up, and the higher your humidity is starting to get. So it's not ideal where we are to use Formic that late.
If I was going to use Formic, I would use it in March.
Yep. End of March, first part of April.
That's when I would use it. I would use it probably about the 2nd or 3rd week of March. Philip's saying he did that Formic, the OA pads, and one other ApriGuard or Aprivar, and a non-treated control on the OA pads. He didn't. Yeah, I know. Long time to see Lee. Okay. Yeah, Philip. I know definitely that the bigger pad, the 4 small pads had less mites. They were wondering why it happened. And I would say it's because of more surface area for the bees to get around it. The more surface area, the more the bees got. There were more bees to be able to come in contact with that in order to, I don't know how it works, spread it or do whatever they do to it in order to kill the mites. It'd be like me trying to dry a 4x4 versus 3 1x4s. I can dry a 1-inch board easier than I can dry a mass.
Yeah.
Even though it's the same amount of wood, 3 smaller or 4 smaller pieces is easier to dry.
Yep. The heat penetrates faster.
Yeah, the 4 pads outperformed the other 2 pad oxalic acid pads. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now, Philip. Yeah, they had the numbers on that chart. It did outperform the Formic, but like Roger said, you got to remember it was only on there for 2 weeks. And then that other stuff was on there for 75 days, which I counted it out. It was 10 weeks, basically, is what his first thing was 10 weeks, and then the other one was 12 weeks, which was 90 days.
Staple or stable format?
What is it?
He said AP bioxyl is a staple format. Is it a staple format or a stable format? Hey, Pete.
Well, happy bioxyl is what? Oxalic acid?
No, not necessarily.
Isn't that what oxybioxyl is? Is the actual approved
Yes.
oxalic acid?
AP bioxyl is the actual approved.
EPA.
Yeah. But now you've got so many different variations of it out there that are approved by the EPA, like the one that company from Texas sells. I don't know. There's so much of it out there.
What's that?
Oxalic acid.
Well, you had the ones in the pellets. I just basic pellet form. And then what kind of got me was I seen that at Nobby, and I know the fella that he comes on here. I don't know where he's at, but Mike from Mike's Bees LLC. He has Easy Oxbow OA tab.
Yep.
And nothing that, it's a good. I mean, that idea is when I seen Ian Stepler have the little tablets.
Yep.
I said, well, that's great. Pop, instead of me scooping it out for my ProVap, and I could take and put the pellets or whatever in a cup, and then put the machine upside down, and then it goes and it vaporizes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do, Pete. But well, Darren, I mean, have you used you're talking about it burns better. Have you used the Florida Labs product? I mean, some people have used the stuff out of the hardware store, and I've always used the Florida Labs. But with the new vaporizers out now, with the automatic, doser.
Yeah. It's
all you gotta do is jam it in. I put my stuff in a peanut can. You jam it in. It's already been measured for you. You hit the button. You're done. So
that's it.
The pellets.
They're 2 grams each.
Well, what I'm getting at is they're obsolete by the time he got them approved, in my opinion.
What, the pellets?
they're obsolete in the fact that you're not going to use pellets in a Larabi vaporizer or a ProVap. Well, maybe a ProVap if you're still using the cups.
Why can't you use them in a little Robbie vaporizer?
I guess you could, drop, 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 drop.
Yeah. But like the plunger measures your dose, but the pellets also measure your dose.
Yeah. But if they're so dry at Florida Labs, I find it sometimes it's a little bit too dry.
Yeah.
I have, I don't write. I've watched the Bug Farmer occasionally, but does he? He's got an Instabap. Okay. Hey, Jack and Danette. I don't know. I'm just set up the way I'm set up, and
Yep. Everybody has their way of doing it, and that's what everybody does.
well, for me, like they're talking about, everybody's going towards the battery operated machine.
Yep.
And which is fine. I get that. If you haven't, like myself, I've invested in a nice generator that's a suitcase model at 50 pounds. And, I can put it in the back of my truck. I go right down the line here and I'm done. And we got DeWalt batteries and Milwaukee batteries, all different sizes. And every time I go to get a darn drill around this place, it's always got a dead battery in it, or it's near dead. And I just, and then like I have borrowed I don't know, it was a battery operated weed eater. And I did, as long as they're hot, and it was a big battery, and all that. And it did a nice job, but it was like when I was out there with my little Milwaukee blower, when I was blowing, hey, Ryan, watched your video. I don't know, that when I was blowing bees out, yes, the battery still had energy in it, but the battery is getting weak, and i.e. the blower is getting too slow to blow them bees out and doing an efficient job. That's the thing.
Yep.
So you got to throw another battery in there that's, half wasted, and in order to keep on going with your blower. And I just I went with the deal where you hook it up to the battery on the truck and you put the inverter on that and then plug your instant VAP into that. Well, I can tell you from experience, when you go from that to a generator, then your instant or ProVap heats up a heck of a lot faster, And hey, Matt.
Let me know if you see Brad in here tonight. I got a question for him.
Okay. What got you? All right, here we go, Brian. That's exactly why I propped mine up, Brian. Actually, my little copper nozzle broke off, and of course, you had to spend $35 for another one of them burn bowls to go down in there with that copper tubing in there. That is the down. Hey, That is the downside of that instant vap. Now I see on some pictures of the new ones that they've kind of beefed them up, but it was designed originally for only in the front of the hive. It was not designed to go into the back of the hive.
That's
and
correct.
that if you look at that board that I have, it's long. It's kind of like it got a T on it. The idea behind that board is that there's 2 blocks down there that make a channel, and I was going to snap that on the rails on the hive stand and have a board going under it so that thing would hold it flat. Well, that's not going to happen because it would tip like that. So I took the end of the board and I cut a notch out so it was like a U like that, so it wouldn't let the InstaVap slide off the board. And I happen to have 2 different sizes as far as length. It just happens so fit on the nukes. They're higher up, and that thing fits right up underneath where the steel plate is close to the handle. And then on the 10 framers behind me, the shorter one will catch the handle, and it supports it. It keeps from that tip. I know the tip gets hot and it won't let it bend. So yes, that's why I did that, and it's worked well.
Now they make something that goes over those tips before you put them in.
Goes over them.
Yep.
For what?
I don't know what it's used for. They say it's to help with the cleaning out of the washing. You can wash it out easier, but the way I was told to wash mine out is take a syringe, heat it up, fill it with water, and let it steam clean.
Well, on my InstaVap or ProVap, I just take it when I get done with it at the end of the day or session. I take it on the back porch here where I got a regular sink and pull the cap off and let the water go. Of course, it's cool. Let the water go in there, and that tube sticking up there like that, and that water goes right out, and you'll see a good stream of water come through it.
Yeah.
The unlikely beekeeper. Yeah. Mine will fit in the front. I did a couple friends of mine's hives, and I don't know. I think that these newer ones with that, it looks like to me it's at least a 1/4 inch or better hole for that tube.
Yep. It's a bigger hole on the newer one.
And all that. It fits. I mean, the newer ones, I definitely would have to drill out the back of my hives. And then there's a lot of talk about whether the vapor, the vapor goes down, it's heavier than air. Is it lighter than air? It's like, well, I don't know. If you sit there and you look at it, it goes out, it blows out in a cloud. It just kind of expands, I think.
Yeah, it definitely expands when it comes out.
Well, Philip, if you're treating 12 times, it's only once a month. Actually, Philip, friend of mine just bought he was at my meeting up here in my club, and he had a ProVap 110, and I told him, I said, he travels a lot and he doesn't, I don't know, he a very hard person to keep up with. And so he didn't know nothing about the doser that, where you put it, you got the cap with the hole, tapered hole, and you jab your doser in just like the InstaVap. And so I said, call down to ProVap to get one. So he was talking about it. And so he, the guy down there now, I don't know whether this is salesmanship or sales, but he said, all I use is he's in the Carolinas. All he uses is oxalic acid, and he hits them every month with oxalic acid.
Yep.
And he hasn't lost a hive, and keeps everything going. I'm not sure whether or not that's gonna. If I would say, if he hit it twice a month, let's say 24 times a year, somewhere's in that neighborhood, 2 to 3 times a month, I guess it possibly would keep the mites down low enough.
And that should.
Huh?
It should.
So, Pete, you use OAE. Is that extended release? Okay, I'm thinking of dribble. Up here in Pennsylvania, there's a club I belong to that I get on before I come to my chat, and they're over the years they were always promoting dribble. You go out there on a such and such a day in December, and everybody, in their club would go around and they would make up dribble solution for everybody to get, and they would dribble and all that. I did that one time. It was convenient and fast. Of course, we were still in the pan age back then, using oxalac hot pan, which was 10 minutes a hive.
Yep.
Or more, about 10 minutes a hive. And then here along came ProVap. And I'm like, that's for me. So I happened to get a grant at the time. Varroa this spring.
It's expensive.
And you got to remember something, Matt, that if you haven't already, you need to subscribe to Bob Benny's channel, and you need to watch this 2-part video that he just put out over the last 2 weekends, especially the second part.
Yep.
To key you in on the fact that, Varroa or extended release pads are for the hive that has its Varroa mites that are suppressed. They're not, that oxalic acid is not a knockdown when it comes to the pads.
It's used for holding your counts. Hey, Hope.
That's true, Hope. I got the stuff in the back room. I've had it sitting back here for a year. And all that, but Matt, just let's see if I can got my papers misaligned here. I don't know, Matt. Try watching that video. Get an idea of a treatment program. I know that you're relatively new, but it gives you an idea of when you should be doing things. And it just seems to be that's the way you have to do it.
The best advice I can give you, Matt, is develop a treatment program for what works in your area, that works for your bees and fits your schedule.
I just seen this. He did Formic in mid-August. Well, you're more brave than I am.
Yeah, you're really brave.
Now, unlikely beekeeper, where are you located? Give me your first name if you would. Then finished up 4 rounds of OA. Then just finished. So that's this month. It depends on what the climate conditions are.
Thank you, Keith. I appreciate that.
That's now he's up there in New York around Buffalo. I would have reversed that if I were you, Matt. I would have did Aprivar in August and I would have did Formic in September.
Glenville, Pennsylvania, Southern New York. His name is Scott.
You're close to my house, Scott.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, you're taking a real chance putting Formic Pro on in August. Because the higher the heat, the faster the off gases, and the more chance you have of killing your bees, and especially the queen, or making them abscond. Because that off gas and that fast in the first 3 days with that high heat in August, that's taking one heck of a chance.
Glenville. Yeah. Like for me, I did Formic Pro September the 2nd. Prior to that, we've had several weeks of 105-degree weather. And that would have cooked my bees.
Yep. Now, Matt, that's Moore's Homestead, right? Matt, first name?
Yeah, Matt Morris.
Yeah, so that temperature that you're at, Matt, for August is perfect.
Yeah, Scott, as you said, you had to wait for a break in the heat, and I got you. Luckily, you got lucky temps below 85. That's for 6 days, and that's good. For Formic, I like it to be 75 to 80 degrees, I like it no higher than that, and low humidity. You're up there next to sticks.
Yeah, but see what days of that Formic treatment count are the first 3. That's when it's the most important because that's when it off gases most.
That's when it's the most potent. That's for sure.
Yeah. So it's the first 3 days that it's the most important to have the low humidity and a lower temperature. You know, in the 70s with low humidity is perfect for Formic Pro. But when you get up around 80, 85 with high humidity, that's pushing the threshold of it.
Yeah. Yeah, Scott, you're close to sticks. I know. I've been right through there. Coming from Goofy's, I'm sure you know where that's at. Hey there, Todd. What's that?
If you put the pads in the freezers, that'll slow the flash of the Formic. It may, yes. Maybe. I wouldn't count on it, though.
Here comes
Mr. Darren.
Yeah. All right, Darren, I got some questions to ask you.
What?
You got that hive there, and you had a double screen board on it, right? The way I got it. and you had 3 or 4 frames of bees down in there, I guess, with a queen and all. So the above that is your stronger hive.
Yeah, I know. I should reverse them, right? That's where you're going with that.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't show it on the video whether or not you actually got into them or not, but I could see them. I could see the bees in the hole there. That looked like they were pretty well populated.
Yeah,
Hey, Nancy.
the upper hive is the one that's basically the stronger hive.
Mm.
I was going to reverse them, and then I like when you have that double screen board on there, that divider. Those bees always cling to that screen on there. So then when you take that off, it just creates a big mess. So I just figured I'm just going to let it the way it is and just chance it, and then I'm going to put some insulation on it, and hopefully it'll make it through the winter. But I've had enough. Like, I'm ready to quit. I want to take a break.
You can't do that no more.
I know.
You might slow down, but you can't take a break.
I know. It's going to be like OA treatments all winter. Like.
Well, that's what my plans are. Is every 2 weeks. The next one will be on the 30th.
I'm only going to do it once a month, but I'm not going every 2 weeks. But yeah.
Well, every 2 weeks is about twice a month is what it amounts to.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. But
But anyway, I jumped on for one reason, because I think you guys, I think Scott was saying about the Unlikely Beekeeper was saying about like how he did his Formic Pro, and when was it? In September, I think he said.
Yeah. That's when I did mine.
And then, wait, what did Scott say? I thought he said September.
He did it was in August.
He did it in August.
Oh, August. Okay, so you guys were saying that that was risky, or
it's risky and very, as far as heat and humidity. Okay. Now I know Nancy is on here, and I think she did, and she's brave too. So I think she did it in July.
Okay. But because where I was going with this was that I did mine in September, and both of you told me, "Oh yeah, you'll be good, you'll be good." Then I thought you were telling Scott like, "Oh no, you shouldn't have done that." Like, wait a minute, let's clear something up here. But yeah, I just came on to give you a hard time. No, I'm just messing with you.
No, Nancy did it in July. Now I don't know where she found a window there. I have to take that back. I can kind of remember. There was a window there of about 3 days or so where all of a sudden it got cool, where it was like a cool breeze or a cool 3 or 4 days of low humidity and cool weather. And I think she probably hit it right there. You had to be right on the money.
Oh, yeah.
It was during the week too. It was, it wasn't weekend type stuff. Sorry. Loma Vista is Todd. Bill, you have to write that down. I'll have to email you my spreadsheet. But and all that. But she keeps bees, full time, and she can be there, when she needs to be there. So it works out. But go ahead, Darren.
No, I was just going to say, well, I told you guys, I think, about the one guy I know who his neighbor gave him some Formic Pro, and like this guy didn't even know what it was, right? So he just like stuck it in his hive, and his queens made it. But the neighbor, right, who is like an experienced beekeeper, he lost his queens. So sometimes it's just the luck of it. But they did that in July, like and the guy didn't even know. Like I said, well, why did you put that in your hive in July? I don't know. I didn't even know I was supposed. I don't know. I didn't read the directions on it. He didn't know anything, but he came out okay. And then the other guy.
Well, talking about that, I got a phone call today from one of my keepers in my club, and he made mention, like he says, you guys are talking about all this stuff, at the club, but he doesn't get on the internet, and he said, he just goes right over top of their head, and I'm like, really? He said, I know you got, I said, I said, do you watch my videos? He says, well, it's like you use your hands for work every day, right? I said, yeah. He says, you know what I have to do? I have to look at this one-eyed monster every day, 8 hours a day, which is a computer screen. And he says, that's the last thing I want to do at night or on the weekends.
Right.
Like me, people say, well, do you I woodwork? I'm like, hell no. You know, it's like, I don't want to hear a saw, you know,
Right.
and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but in today's age, like if you're not going online to research, then you're missing the boat. Yeah, that's where all the information is now, right? So
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. What's the difference between a club and an association? Ryan.
There is no difference.
Here comes Scott. There he is.
Hello.
Hey, Scott.
Hey.
Listen, before I say anything about this Formic Pro, I just want to say I love you guys so much. I've been watching you guys for so long, and I always try to get in on your live streams, and I just really appreciate all of your dedication and, you know, just all your energy that you give to really just helping everybody, you know, figure this whole beekeeping thing out. So I just wanted to say that to you guys. So,
Well, what took you so long to get on here?
oh, well, you know, I mean, like I most of the time I just like, you know, I like listening to the discussion and stuff like that. So, but the reason why,
let me answer a couple questions. Yeah, Ryan, it's an association. I've been the president for 5 years on the board of directors. Prior to that, 4 years as the vice president, and we pay dues and vote and all that good stuff and all that stuff. So, but anyway, all right, now Scott, go ahead.
okay, so I just wanted to say that I'm a 5th-year beekeeper. So, and before I got my first, before I got my first set of bees, like my first package, I spent 2.5 years watching every video I could possibly find about beekeeping. And
I hope you learned how to sort them out.
Yeah, so I mean, and then I took, you know, I took some courses on it. I mean, I just learned everything I could possibly learn about beekeeping because I did not want to stumble through it. I wanted to be a good steward of the bees. So I just really wanted to be absolutely prepared. And then, of course, you know, I was still scared. I mean, hence my name, Unlikely Beekeeper, right? I am deathly terrified of anything that flies and stings. I always have been. I still am. But out of nowhere, one day, with a YouTube channel full of basically of technology and travel and things like that, anything far from beekeeping, the algorithm saw fit to deliver this one single beekeeping video right there in the midst of all the rest of the unrelated videos. And then I clicked on it. And then I watched another one, and I watched another one, and watched another one. In fact, like the first video I was watching, it was very late at night. It was quiet in the house. This was quite a few years ago. This was like maybe 2015 or something like that, or whatever. So I was very quiet. I was listening to the video, and a bee had buzzed the camera of the, I can't even remember what channel it was. Can't remember what the video was or anything. But a bee had buzzed the camera, and I had smacked the headphones off of my ear because it scared the crap out of me because I thought there was a bee in the house at like midnight. So anyway, so I mean, that's just how I was, right? But again, I just watched another one and another one, another one. Next thing I know, I told my wife, listen, I think I'm going to keep these. So again, I spent all this time watching, spent a couple of years just being ready and prepared about equipment. I built some of my own equipment and so forth. And then I had the bees here at my house for about 2 years, about 2 seasons. And my township told me that I was in violation of a couple things. One, they were amending the ordinance to only allow three colonies, and I had 7. So they said you have to get rid of some of them. And then they said, well, we actually just want you to get rid of them all because we don't like where they are. We think that they're too close to a government easement at the back of my property. And it was all kinds of stuff. This happened. And I was like, okay, fine. I got rid of them. So I spent another year or two looking for a place to basically start over again. And I finally found a place in Glenville, Pennsylvania. So really great people down there, nice big 20-acre farm. They gave me a big piece of land and said, put as many bees as you want on it. So,
Oh, do you
so
live
this
in
is
Glenville or do you live
no,
someplace?
I don't live in Glenville. I live up in northern York County, and obviously Glenville is in southern York County. So I only live about maybe 20 minutes from the bees, 30 minutes from the
Oh,
bees, depending on traffic.
Northern York at?
I'm sorry?
What place in Northern York?
In Dillsburg.
Oh, Dillsburg. Okay, I've been
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So it's only about 20 or 30 minutes to the bees for me, depending on traffic. Actually, I was just there today. I just got back from there. I went down and did most of the putting them to bed thing. I gave them. I wrap my hives. I know a lot of people in Pennsylvania say you don't need to wrap your hives, but I wrap my hives. So I went down and put the wraps on them, and I gave them some mountain camp. I do a mountain camp sugar, so I gave them mountain camp sugar, and I had feeders actually on there for a while, so I had to take those feeders off and stuff. But so they're more or less put to bed now. I really won't be probably, I'll just make some runs and stuff by them, over the winter to see how they are. But this is basically my first year back from not having my bees for a couple of years. So and literally, like I literally had a hole eating, like this big hole in me. Like I literally felt like a parent who had lost their child when I had to give them up.
Well, now you had your bees
Um,
up in Dillsburg. You say, like in
yeah.
a community or a
No, I
lot of
mean, like
houses?
just on my property, but the
Did
township.
you have like 2 acres, or you have like a subdivision, or?
No, it was 3 acres, but like I said, it was part of it butted up to a subdivision, and in that subdivision they had like a storm drain easement, and that storm drain easement, um, the bees were too close to it, so
What's
and
that
they were
got?
like, well, what? They were like, well, because they said like they had to come and work on it
Mhm.
or whatever, then they would be concerned about it, and I told them I was like, I told them I was like, bring some honey or something like that or whatever. I was like, the bees will leave you alone, but like there's nothing I could do to appease them. And then they said, so we just really want you to get rid of them. So, and
This
I
is
was
the
like,
government.
okay,
I would have looked at him and said, "Prove it
it
was
was my
my bee that
township.
stung you."
Yeah, it was my township. So,
I would have looked
um,
at him and said, "Prove it was my bee that stung you."
well, I mean, so again, I mean, I worked for the Pennsylvania legislature for about 17 years or something like that or whatever. So I kind of learned that it's more or less a futile effort in a lot of cases. I mean, it's obviously some things you need to fight the government on, but that's not one of them. So it was going to cost me more money and more aggravation than it was going to be worth. So I said, fine, I'll just find another place. But it took a while. I was, seemed like everybody I contacted was really worried and concerned about stinging or worried about their neighbors or, somebody else, just worried about the bees being, a negative impact on them. So it took a while to finally find somebody who said, um, sure. So
How'd you find them, Scott,
I'll be
being
back.
so far away from you?
I started looking at Facebook Marketplace for places that were advertising horse boarding.
Oh, okay.
And I reached out to him and I just said, I don't have horses, but I think I had this like kind of like canned response to him. I was like, I'm looking for a space about as big as a refrigerator laying on its side to place a couple of beehives. Would you consider that? Some people were like, yes. Some people were no. So I actually had two people responded and said yes. So originally, I actually set up 2 yards. One was over, they're about 12 miles apart. So one's in Glenville and the other is in what the other one was near Stewartstown or Winterstown, Pennsylvania, or whatever, actually more over towards 83 near the Maryland line, about maybe, I don't know, 5 miles or so, 4 miles or so from the Maryland line. And the reason why I had to give that yard up was because they had a pit bull on that farm and it bit me.
Oh,
So
No, that's a good reason.
right.
yeah, so and I had been there for a long time. I had been there for a while and stuff, and actually had a couple of colonies set up there, and the dog was fine. And one day the owner came and she was talking to me, and then the dog joined her, and the dog was, we were talking for about another 20 minutes, and then I went to walk away. And as soon as I turned and walked away, the dog bit me, and luckily I had my boots on, and the dog didn't make it through the boots. So I said, you know what? I'm sorry, but she was like, I'm really sorry. And I was like, no, it's not a problem. I was like, you know, dogs are dogs, but I was like, but I can't be worried about that while I'm taking care of bees. So I told her, I was like, I'll just have to move my bees. So I moved my bees over to the Glenville yard. So
Brian had a good comment, and it's the same thing here in Virginia. Even a homeowners association in Virginia can't tell you you cannot have bees. They can tell you the maximum number of hives that you can have.
yeah.
They cannot keep you from having bees. And a township can restrict the number of hives that you have in Virginia, but they cannot tell you you cannot keep bees.
Well, so here's what our township told me. They said, so you can only have 3. So I'm like, okay. So you would have to get rid of some. They're like, and we need them to be like, they were like your property has to be like so big, and then they were like, and then you have to have your bees facing away from any other adjacent property. So basically kind of like facing inward on your property. And then they have to be back so far from it and everything else. So the code guy, or the code enforcement guy, said to me, he's like, I've looked at your property and I don't really feel very comfortable with you moving them to any other place on your property where they wouldn't still be pointed at somebody else's property. And I'm like, well, pointed, but you know, like, as the bee flies, not exactly right on the property line, you know? So again, I just decided that it was a fight not worth having,
Yeah.
you know? So I said, fine. So I contacted a beekeeper on Facebook, Pennsylvania Beekeepers Facebook group or something like that. He lives on, I don't know if he's on there anymore because I haven't seen him for a while, but he lived down near a place called Mount Wolf.
English?
His name was Rick somebody, I forget his name. It was a couple years ago. So but anyway, contacted him and I said, you know what? Today is your lucky day because I'm about to give you about, you know, like I gave him everything. I gave him because I didn't know how long it was going to take me to find a place. So I was like, you know what? My wife is like, you know, smacking me in the back of the head. You know me, you should have kept some of that stuff. But in any event, yeah, so I just gave him everything. I gave him the bees, gave him all my extra equipment, gave him an extractor, gave him, you know, uncapping tank, just gave him everything. Because I just wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was so disgusted with the whole situation at the same time too. So, but again, like I'm back at it now. I'm happier, you know, it's a better situation.
Do you plan to expand?
So in fact, actually, you know, like I said, the farm owners that I have my bees on now, they're really great people. And they told me they're like, you know, they gave me just about 3/4 of an acre. So, and I think that is, you know, just a perfect amount of space. So right now I'm preparing right now. So I ended the season with 8, well, let me say this. I came into August with 8 colonies and I lost 2. So I have 6 right now. So I'm planning on at least 5 as a minimum. But if I end up being able to get, like if they're going to be swarming on me and things like that, and I'm going to split them, I'm going to end up probably with closer to 20 by the time it's all said and done. I really feel like that area. I really feel like 20 is a good number. 20 is a good number probably as a maximum. Not only for the resources that are in the area, but also my ability to work those bees in a ventilated bee suit in the middle of July.
Yeah, I agree. 20 is about the number I'm looking at. But and another thing you mentioned, like it's what your bees are 20 minutes from your home. So
yeah, about 20, 30 minutes on track based on traffic. Yeah.
A 20-minute drive, and that doesn't seem like much, like a long drive at all. But when you're tired at the end of the day, you've worked all day. The last thing you feel like doing is loading up that truck and going.
Yeah.
I had an
walk out my
out
back door and work my bees. I'd probably have 30 hives, but
well, it's forced me to be a lot more anticipatory about stuff too. I have to basically take a lot of extra stuff with me, even if I don't think I'm going to need it,
right.
just so that I don't have to, drive. And I've already been in situations like that where I got down there and it was, or end of July or something like that. I got down there and found probably close to 7 queen cells in one of my colonies. And, immediately I had to jump in the car and come back home and get extra equipment and go down there and make 2 splits from that.
I pretty much haul everything in the back of my truck. I drive around in my.
Right. I mean, and like I said, I take a lot of. I have to take a lot of extra stuff with me, but at the same time, I didn't have extra boxes and bottom boards and everything else with me. So I had to come back and get it. It is what it is. Hopefully, I mean, it only happened a couple of times. Hopefully, it doesn't happen at all next year. But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of where we're at. But I wanted, again, back to the. I don't know if I had mentioned this or not, but like when I was looking at the Formic, I bought that Formic Pro, and I was, waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for temperatures, to get a break. And there's this guy that lives up above Harrisburg. I think his name is Rick Brown. He's pretty active in the Pennsylvania Beekeepers Facebook group. And he was kind of telling me the same thing. He was like, he had been waiting and waiting and waiting for, like maybe we would have one day where the temperatures would be below 85 or something like that, but certainly not enough. And I agree with you, Bill. Like, the first 3 to 5 days is absolutely crucial when you're dealing with Formic Pro. Especially, I mean, you have just an exponentially higher risk of killing your queen, if you're putting it in there under less than ideal conditions. So, I mean, I was just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and finally the forecast, and that, and of course you can't trust the weather guy either all the time. So, but again, I was just waiting, and then of course when I saw this kind of break, this 6-day, 7-day break where the temperatures are only going to be like 81 or 80. I think there was one day it was only 79. I said, there we go. There's my window. So I went down there. Now I did not do Formic Pro in my splits that I had just got them talking about because they had brood breaks. So, and I felt.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a 1-box nuke, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too strong for that.
Yeah. So I was just like, okay, plus they had no brood for, a decent amount of time. So I was like, okay, because I mean, one of them I even thought went laying worker on me at one point, but it didn't. But in any event, so I didn't do Formic on them, but I thought I'll definitely, as long as they take off, as long as they take and, there's no problem with them, I'll just hit them with OA, later in the fall. So
you're right on the money on that.
Yeah, so that's what I ended up doing. So a couple of the 4 colonies that were fine. Like I said, I had that great break in the temperatures, and had no problems. And of course, it was probably I came out of that probably a couple of weeks after that, Darren. That was when you had started. That's when you had did your videos, and I know that you were worried about queen loss. Yeah, so And I mean, and that's why I had said to you in the comments, I was like, I did it and I didn't have any queen loss, so I wasn't that worried about it at all. I mean, I'm a real firm believer in Formic. Anything that can get under the cappings, and get those mites where they're breeding is, okay for me. So
Yeah.
Now you brought out a really good point there a while ago about brood breaks. You knew enough about them to understand that there's a brood break. I get more calls from first and second year beekeepers swearing up and down they're queenless because they don't see any brood on the hive. And then I go out there and I find the queen. No, you're not queenless. Here's your queen. You're broodless. There's a brood break.
Right.
Especially this time of year, I get a lot of those calls.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them, look, you got to find a queen. If nothing else, do a shaker box and find the queen on a queen excluder. That way you've got her.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Peabody Apiary, which is Ryan. He's down in Southern Maryland. He just did a video, went through his 5/5 nuke, and the top box was pretty much honey, and the bottom box, there wasn't any brood in that there, but he did find his queen. It's that time of year.
Yeah.
It's like Ian Stepler says. He said, I don't know. He made mention in one of his videos, he says, I don't recognize these hives because he's used to seeing, he wants to see 6 frames of brood in there and there's nothing in there. And it's like, oh, am I queenless? He's worrying about it, and he knows better himself, and it's something that you have to get, it's like any of us, we could go in there right now and find out no brood at all. And it kind of puts us in a panic. Yeah. And you have to get, it's like, no, leave them alone. It's like I did the OA this Saturday. And, I haven't, since I put my insulation on the week prior, and then I put the little boards over top of the vent holes, they profilised all those boards down. They're stuck on there. And, and I haven't seen the bees. I did pop one of them little boards off, and they're in there. They're walking around and doing their thing. Yeah. But now the nukes, they're so tall. There's so much honey above them that they're more down in the bottom of the hive. I'd have to take a box or 2 off to get to see them down in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, my populations look really good, so I'm not really concerned about as far as like cluster size and stuff going into winter. And now this fall has been like the warmest fall I can really remember in a long time.
And we had one like this about 3 years ago, and I'm wondering, is it going to bite us in the butt again?
Yeah, I mean, like I had to just keep throwing. I had to keep throwing syrup on. Like I was just kept throwing syrup. My colonies are literally taking a gallon of syrup every 3 minutes or every 3 days from maybe early mid-September. Literally all the way up to the last of like the 70s and the 80s, which was just like maybe a week or 2 ago, right? So I mean, like they just kept taking it. And I mean, I'm just going to give it to them until they stop taking it. But they just kept taking it.
That's the way I feed them, a lot. I mean, people like Brad and those guys who have hundreds of hives, it costs them so much money that they'll kind of regulate. Each hive will get so much, and with experience, they know how much they can regulate that. And of course, they're also doing single brood chamber. And myself, I put the Man Lake feeders on, and I pour it to them.
So I use I don't have feeder right now, but I have them outside in case there was a couple of hitchhikers. I think because if my son comes into the garage and there's something flying around, he's even more terrified of them than me, and then he won't go out there, and then I have to come out to the refrigerator and get him ice cold drinks. So, but in any event, I use those high top feeders that have the cone in the middle of it and the lids.
Ceracell, the blue ones.
They're similar, but mine just came from China. But I mean, they're rectangle, they're white. Usually they've got a cone in the middle of them with a dome, you know,
I
and then
think
a
it's
lid.
Ross rounds. The round, are they
So
round?
yeah, well they have both. They have the square ones and then they have the round ones.
Okay.
So and I use the big square ones, right? So I use quilt boards all year long, right? And this time I first time around I made my own custom quilt boards, but this time around I just took shallows and drilled holes in them and put you know, like put some like, you know, number 4 hardware cloth on it and stuff like over the holes and stuff. So I run quilt boards year round. And then what I have is I have this Coroplast. I think I have one here. So this is something I picked up from this guy in Massachusetts, Vino Farm.
Yeah,
Um, so I picked this design up from him, right? So it's basically just a piece of Coroplast with a lot of Gorilla tape on it and then this number 4 hardware cloth. And I keep that over the inner cover in the summer, in the warm weather. And then when there's a feeder on there, I take this off, I put the feeder on, and then in the winter time, I use a
so you can,
something else that I built. It's, you know, I just call them sugar cages, but basically it just takes up the whole entire inside circumference of the inner cover. And I put that down on it, and it has number 4 hardware cloth. I actually have one over here. Just let me grab it here real quick, and um, I'll show it to you what I'm talking about here. But
you got an extractor there. I can see that much.
yeah, that's a Hilco 9 frame, 8 frame, 9 frame, something like that, or whatever. I have a junky garage. I'm really sorry about that, but so this is something
That's
I
what
built.
garages are for.
Yeah, this is something I built. You know, again, it just fits down on the circumference of the inner cover. It has number 4 hardware cloth on it, and then
Putting
I
that
just
on top of the inner cover.
yeah, I put it on top of the inner cover inside the quilt board, and then I pour sugar down through it. What I like about that design,
You're on a mountain camp thing.
yeah. So all right. So what I like about that is
Everybody
that
loves mountain camp.
standard mountain camp, you know, is going to be right there on top of the frames. So if you're going to end up having to give them more sugar, you're having to really open up the top of that hive to get in there and put more sugar. This way, all I have to do is take the lid off, I put burlap quilts in there. So all I got to do is pull the burlap back, pour some more sugar down through that hardware cloth, put the burlap back down, put it on, and I haven't really kind of, you know, exhausted all of the heat out of it like I would if I was doing like a traditional mountain camp. And, you know, and now some people have given me a little bit of grief about it, saying, well, the bees have to break cluster to come up there after the sugar that way. And I would agree. But for me, that's where it's really important to make sure that my hives are heavy enough and that the sugar is just there as an emergency or as, you know, like at an end of the winter, early spring kind of option where it probably where it's probably warm enough for them to break cluster for a couple of hours in the afternoon and come up and get that sugar and then, you know, go back down in it for the nighttime or whatever. So that's just, again, it's how I do it. You know, everybody does it a little bit differently, and, you know, and I'm always open to ideas and suggestions, but I kind of agree with Mike Berry when he says, you know, this is how I do, you know, so,
Right.
but yeah,
Well,
so
I
that's how
don't
I
do
do
the
it.
mountain camp. If I'm going to emergency feed, I do sugar bricks, and I
Yeah.
put them right on top of the. I just
Yeah.
open the hive
Right.
up in 5 seconds. Put them on top of the frames, and
Yeah.
I've got a shim, and put the inner cover back on and put the top back on. I'm done.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
that's
So like I said, yeah,
but
I mean,
normally, like you say, when it comes to feeding, I feed them till they quit.
yeah,
As far as the sugar water goes.
right.
And then they're good to go. I mean, like right now, everybody's talking about, you know, I mean, yeah, they're flying. They're flying today.
Yeah, yeah. Mine. So it was about 65 degrees in the yard today, and there was a lot of flying going on. But, you know, here's the other thing too. I really don't take much, if any, fall honey. from them just because I can't get past that goldenrod honey smell, right? You know, like
I don't either.
I'm fine with the taste of it, but I can't get past that smell. And that smell just kind of sticks with me. It's like one of those things like you ate when you were sick and then you just can't even think about eating that again. And it's the same thing for me on the fall honey. So my colonies are always going to have plenty of stores from whatever they gathered in the fall. But again, I'm just going to feed them and feed them and feed them syrup until they're done, until they won't take it anymore. This time, if it hadn't been for the warm temperatures, I think they were just I think that was sustaining them and certainly keeping them from having to break into their stores. But I was really starting to wonder if they didn't, there's supposedly this secret room in the back of your dryer where all your socks disappear into. And I was starting to wonder whether or not the bees had some secret honey stash somewhere, in the colony, because I'm just like, where are they putting it all? Right. Like they just kept taking it and taking it and taking it and taking it. And I honestly just was astonished by it. So,
They're a bunch of hogs when it comes to sugar water.
yeah.
Couple of things. I think you're doing everything right. We stop feeding when it gets below 50 round the clock for 2 or 3 days, which we've already stopped.
Yeah.
Couple things to keep in mind. Beekeeping is a big science experiment.
Yeah.
So you got to keep that in mind and ask 10 different beekeepers the same question. You'll get 12 different answers.
Yep.
So you got to pick the one that works the best for your bees first, and
Right.
then works the best for you. But
Yeah.
you're doing the right things, and it sounds like you're really being successful at it.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, so far, I mean, I appreciate the vote of confidence from that. I mean, it means a lot coming from, really experienced beekeepers like yourselves.
We can all be experienced, but it's just like Bill said, and I say it to all my new beekeepers that come in. Beekeeping is a science experiment and never quits.
Yeah.
You can do all the right things and you can still, when it comes to die outs, if you get through the winter and you're 100% coming through, that's great. But that's not the norm. You're going to lose several hives every year.
Right.
You're going to have queen problems every year. I have queen problems a lot now. I'm kind of getting on board of what to do about that. And, it's an experiment. What works and what works for you, depending on where you're at. It's like me. I don't have a fall flow. I might have a fall pollen flow.
Yeah.
And I've got a little bit of a flow here lately in the last 3 years with spotted lantern and whatever else was happening this year in July and August, where I don't have to feed in them months. I've had them previous years. I'll say 4 years ago. You get into hives and you look around and there's no eggs, or there's no brood. Why? You have to understand, when the nectar stops flowing, she stops laying.
Right.
And if you don't recognize that as a beekeeper, understand, it all boils down to one thing. You've got to know the bee biology inside and out, and how it applies to what time of year it is, and what type of year and what point in time in the year it is.
Yeah.
When you can kind of master that, you seem to kind of get it hit everything just right.
Yeah, and you're better off with fall losses than you are with overwinter losses.
Yeah.
So if you can keep your bees healthy, and let's say you lose a hive in the fall, all right, well, that hive wasn't going to make it through the winter to start with.
Right.
So you're better off keeping your bees fat, happy, and healthy
in
the fall from the July dearth break on. Think fat, happy, and healthy.
Right.
Than trying to play catch up through the winter.
Yeah.
When you get behind the bees and you try to play catch up, you never get caught up.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like the first thing I started doing this year was, I started making, I looked at all the colonies sizes and stuff like that to see whether or not I was going to have to do any combines or whatever, because I want to make sure that I had plenty of population. I knew that I was going to feed them until, they were, busting out. And I knew that I was going to treat them for mites, and those are the three, I think, the three pillars there, right? Maybe not necessarily in that order or in that priority, but I mean, cluster size, food stores, and mite control is really the best, I believe, that we can do for the bees, and then the rest of it is just up to them, as to whether or not they're gonna.
The other thing I throw into it all the time is nutrition. You have to make sure you're feeding them the right things so they build those fat bodies for the winter.
Yeah.
Because those winter bees, you want them fat, you want them healthy,
Right.
you want them happy.
Well, I use Honeybee Healthy in every batch of syrup I mix, whether that's 1-to-1 or 2-to-1. I I use it. I use that instead of Hive Alive just because it's cheaper. I mean that's really what it comes down to. I don't really see a whole lot of difference between Hive
I
Alive
use
and
Hive Alive, or not, or you talking about Honeybee Healthy, right?
Honeybee
Yeah.
Healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to, when it got up to over $100 and some a gallon. That's when I quit using all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So everybody, you might want to do some research on Apis biologics.
Okay.
It's really good for the bees, and just do your research and read up on it. And I think you might change your mind on the Honeybee Healthy.
Hey guys, I'm gonna
Yeah.
jump
I mean,
off. I gotta eat dinner, then I'm getting up early. So good talking to you.
It's good late.
Well, Darren, thanks for getting on tonight.
All right.
yeah, it was great. It was great talking to you, Darren.
Okay, I'll see you.
See you,
Yeah.
guy. Yeah, as far as Hive Alive or Apis Biologic, that I use that. That's you talk
Yeah.
about. You want something. You make sure you're ready for it in the springtime. Because you better be in
Roy,
there.
I think there's
You
two
better
other
be in there
people on
2
here
weeks
with you
ahead of
that would
time.
agree with you.
Yeah, I definitely will look into that. I had not heard anything. I've heard you guys talking about it, but I had never heard of it before I heard you
You'll
guys
hear them
mentioning
they'll
it.
call it it's rocket fuel.
Okay.
It's even
Yeah,
separate rocket
that's the
fuel.
other thing that it's called is rocket fuel.
Gotcha.
So,
But you better be, if your bees are normally ready by April 1st, you better be in there about the second week of March.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I mean, what I found this year was that for all of the similarities that this, for all intents and purposes, this time around for me, that my bees are similar to the last time. I mean, last time I had them for 2 seasons, so I was able to really gauge on stuff like that. And then the third season with them was, kind of different. That's when I really started realizing that, there really are going to be some variations in some seasons. Some are going to be more kind of textbook and some are going to just kind of be crazy. And then of course, then I lost them. And then, so this time around, I just think this particular year just seemed kind of weird. Like I was thinking to myself, some things just seemed kind of weird to me this year, but then I was seeing other people posting about it as well. And I had one colony, like I said, I lost 2 colonies, and one of them, they just kept requeening themselves all summer long. Like I could not get them to keep a queen. And then at the end of the day, the last queen they had in there, she looked good, right? She looked like she should look. She looked like she was mated well. She looked like she was nice and plump and ready to just lay eggs. But she ran around on those frames for, my gosh, like like almost 2 months and never laid a single egg.
Yeah, she didn't get mated or something.
But she looked like she was mated.
Mated yet.
Yeah, she looked mated and everything looked good with her and normal, but she ran around in there for like 2 months without laying a single egg. So I was just like, at least she didn't lay drones and destroy all my comb, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
All right. Let me drop a link in here on the chat. Right there it is under my it's for our Nobby pizza party. It's New Year's Day at 6:00 p.m. Anybody that wants to come can come. It's free via Honeybees. Tom and Melissa and myself, along with we're kind of hosting it. And the only thing is, you got to go to that link. You got to sign up and get your quote ticket. It's a free ticket. We just need to know how many people are coming. And we have a room for at least 50 people. So there it is in the chat under my thing, Solomon Charlie's Bee Farm. Go to Everbright and all you do is fill out your email and information and print it out. So I just wanted to kind of drop that in since Brian and Tom and Melissa are in. Oh, okay, now we can get back. Time for a commercial break.
So Scott, Nancy made a good comment here. And I mentioned it a while ago. You need to really, really, really think about the nutrition of the queen, number one.
Right.
Because Nancy has made that comment, poor nutrition. So that could have been the problem with your queen, was poor nutrition.
Yeah. Right.
Or she was very poorly bred.
Right.
What time of year was this?
Well, see, like by the time that queen showed up, because like I said, that colony they must have requeened themselves like 5 or 6 times from, I'd say late May, early June to like early mid-August. So she was the last one. So I'm thinking she showed up probably around early to mid-August. So
see, when we raise queens, we cut them off. We stopped grafting the 15th of August. So, and if we do open mate in August, most of the queens that come back are very poorly bred. But we take care of our queens. And I always make sure they have good nutrition. Now, here's another little tip for you that I learned from a commercial beekeeper. Most of your commercial beekeepers, especially here in the Valley, want their bees to be ready to go April 1st. So they count back 45 days to 15th February. That's when they start dropping pollen patties. And I mean 4%, 15% rocket fuel pollen patties. And that builds those bees up. That queen goes into overdrive laying. And come April 1st, when you open hives up, you got hives like you see on these videos that are booming with bees, ready to work. Typically, your flow starts mid to end of March. So those bees are already working. And you've got to be ready to keep up with them. So, and that's how we do it. But getting back to queen nutrition, it all goes back to the scientific side of beekeeping. The more you learn about the scientific side of beekeeping, it'll make you a more well-rounded beekeeper.
Yeah.
So
I always go into my colonies, with a curiosity. I always try to be very observant, try to figure out what's going on. And if I see something I don't recognize, I usually go research it, and try to figure it out, if I can. So far I have not had any terrible surprises in the time that I, from the time before the time in this year, I haven't had any surprises. All the rest of my colonies were fine, except for, one, like I said, they just kept requeening themselves. And then the other one was from a split that just didn't make it. So now, like I said, I'm went there today and I put them to bed today. So there's 6 colonies down there that I think that is in best shape that they can be, at this point. So I'm just, I would be great if all 6 come out, but I'm definitely anticipating the possibility that I'm not getting all 6 of them through. Let's have to see what happens, but I'm definitely going to ramp up in the spring. Definitely with a series of splits, and I'm definitely going to be, trying to catch as many swarms as I can as well. And if I have to, I guess I'll buy a couple of packages, but I really don't want to buy any more bees. At this point, I really just want to make them now. So
Don't grow your apiary faster than you can handle it.
yeah, I mean,
That's the other.
I agree. Right now, like I said, right now I'm set. I'm set for 4 for sure. I definitely want to add 4 more colonies, and I would love to repopulate the 2 the 2 that like the 2 that didn't make it. So so then that's really like 6. But if the bees have a different idea, I'm certainly not going to let bees get away from me. So if they decide they're going to swarm, or they decide they're going to create a situation for me where I'm, going to have to, split them, then, next thing you know, I'm going to probably end up with more bees than I originally intended, because I'm certainly not going to let them fly off into the trees. So,
Yep. Well, sounds like you're doing everything right.
yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. And like I said, I've been really.
There's others on here that have said the same thing, that you're doing a good job. Just keep it up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, everybody does things differently, like I said, and certainly I've always had the attitude that, if I'm a beekeeper for 20 years, I'm still going to be learning, I'm still going to be seeing things that I maybe necessarily didn't see before and stuff. So I always go into it with an open mind and, with an eagerness to learn as much as I can about it. Certainly at this point, I haven't seen it all. I know that for sure. So
yeah, no, I don't think anybody has seen it all.
Yeah.
You always try to learn something every day, something new every day.
Right. What I really miss on YouTube though is I really miss like I've done some YouTube videos on my channel. I'm probably my worst critic as far as the quality of my videos, but I've always feel like there's always room for improvement on that side of it. But like I really miss some of the beekeeping YouTubers from like 2015, 2016, 2017, like the Walls Bee Man, and just some of those old timers that that had been keeping bees for like 20 years before they even just did their first YouTube video. I really miss some of those videos because they were so hands-on and they were so insightful for like what you should be looking for and what this means. And if they got into a colony expecting to do a video about something, but they got in there and they saw something else, they took the time to really show you, this is what you're seeing, and this is what we found and stuff like that. And I not that I think that there are bad YouTubers now. I just don't see that kind of level of that level of in-depth explanation and beekeeping going on in front of the camera like I did when I first got into this, like I said, in like 15, 16 or stuff like that. I really wish some of those guys were still around making that same kind of content. So
yeah. I think, I don't know, some of them have gotten old and they just quit.
Yeah, you're probably right. Some of them were pretty old. One guy I really like a lot, that I watch a lot now. He always brings a smile on my face every time I watch it, and that is Sam with South Carolina Happy Bees. So
yeah, he's next door to Bob Walker.
Yeah, so I mean, like, again, an old timer, really knows a lot about bees and stuff like that or whatever, but he always brings a smile to my face watching. Like sometimes I wonder why his bees are still there sometimes because some of his equipment is in really rough shape. So I'm not sure how they haven't
Yeah.
absconded sometimes, but yeah, but I really, at this point, I don't watch a whole lot of videos. I'm always watching you. I'm always like at least lurking on you guys' live streams and stuff like that or whatever. And you
You
made me
come in on
really,
Fridays.
really jealous, Charlie, when you got that box lifter, that hive lifter.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, my bad. I'm 54 years old now, right? So, and I'm just now getting to the point where my back is, starting to remind me that I'm not 26 anymore. So,
Yeah.
but so
Bill,
I'm
look at your messenger. I sent you the link for the party. It doesn't want to be active on your channel for some reason. Maybe you can copy and paste it, and it'll so people can click on it and it'll make it go. I don't know what the deal is. I'll have to get Lloyd or somebody, or not Lee, to tell us about that. I had some other
but
folks here, huh?
I just wanted to say, listen, I really appreciate you guys letting me come in and tuck your ears off and and just kind of sideswipe your
That's
live
cool.
stream. But I just wanted to respond to you in a kind of more meaningful way about that Formic. Because I
Well,
mean,
the thing of it is, I
I would
like
agree
for
under
you to
normal
come on.
circumstances it would be dangerous to do Formic at that time of the year. But again, I was looking for that opportunity, and when it
Got that
presented
window.
itself, I got it. So I was
But the
lucky.
main thing of it is this is what these chats are about. If people have got questions or um, different ways, approaches of doing different things in the bee community, then come on and let's discuss it, and that
Sure.
helps everybody else
Yeah.
out here. And then, like you're saying, it depends on where you live at too. For me,
hmm
I don't have a fall flow as far as nectar sources for the most part.
hmm hmm
And 20 miles up the road, that guy that lives next door to Susquehanna River, yeah, he does. I don't.
Right.
And um, um, so you have to kind of keep the bees, like you say, it's local. It can only
hmm
be 5 miles away, and things will be different. You might
hmm
have autumn olive plant or something like that. I've seen that along streams. I don't have any streams next to me close enough.
Yeah,
So
there's no streams that are really close to my yard either at this point. So, and in fact, I don't even really think there's a whole lot of fall like a whole lot of fall action going on. I mean, I mean, definitely a lot of spring, a lot of trees and a lot of other spring stuff. And in fact, today I just noticed when I was, like I said, I was putting the wraps around, I was around the front. I saw an awful lot of girls coming in with a bright orange pollen. Right. So I'm not sure where they were getting bright orange pollen at this time of the year, but it must be out there because they were bringing it in. So, um, but yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, I wouldn't be taking anything from them in the fall really either, just because like I said, I can't stand the smell of it. So, um, this being the first year that the colonies were established there or whatever, I just took a teeny tiny little bit of excess from them in about early July, and it was just enough for just like me, like just enough for me to have a little bit or whatever. But I didn't want to be crazy about it or anything with them because first year they really need that they really need that for them. So and I see so many of the people in the Facebook groups, first years, and they're taking like 50, 60 pounds off their colonies. I was like, what are you doing? But, but it's their bees, so they can do it however they want. But again, listen, thank you so much, guys, for letting me to come in here. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to jump out and let you finish up your stream or whatever, but have a great, week. And I'm sure I'll talk to you again sometime soon. So,
all right, we'll
You
see you
are
Friday
welcome to
night.
come back
okay.
anytime, Scott.
Yep,
Okay.
see
Thank
you
you.
Friday night.
Appreciate it.
You're
Okay.
welcome to come back in anytime.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Well, Bill, it
The link
posted
is
on.
posted in the chat.
it posted on the StreamYard side correctly, but not on the YouTube side.
I don't have my YouTube up, so
Well, that's why then you got to post it in YouTube, and that's where they can click on it and it'll go to it.
well, it should have went to YouTube though.
No, it doesn't work that way. You gotta put it in YouTube for it to have the whole complete address. And it seems like to me it's the admin is the one that I don't have to have the rights, quite all the rights to do everything.
Let me see if I can get in there and do it. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try.
And when I clicked on it, it only goes to everbright.com. It doesn't go to this ticket thing.
So live.
Unless you copy and paste off of StreamYard.
Nope, it won't let me in YouTube.
You can't get on YouTube?
I can't get in there in my videos. Let me try.
No, you're on the live stream in YouTube is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. But I can't get to it because I closed my YouTube because it feeds back.
All right, as long as everybody sees the link and can either copy it or whatever, so you can go right to the proper page, it'll be fine.
Jack and Danette said it's there.
Okay. Anyway, everybody was talking about I got my results back from the National Honeybee Survey here this over the weekend. They tested 8 colonies out of the 27 that I got right now. And I'll kind of back history on this. Yes, Steve, that's the kind that I have. And I say the same thing. It's wonderful. And so the back history is this. 3 years ago, I participated in the same science program. My apiary inspector came out, did the testing. She came out in October. It was a little late that year, or right before October, I guess it was. It was after Formic Pro had been on. And prior to that, for 6 weeks, I had Aprivar on. She came out, she tested, and my mite infestation was a 0.2. And this year, I signed up for it again. She came out. It was the last week of the 6-week treatment period for Aprivar. That she came out on a Tuesday. I took out the strips, the Aprivar strips. I think it was a Saturday or a Sunday. And so she tested and everything. The sample size was 984 bees. There were 35 Varroa mites found in there. And it came out per 100 bees as a 3.6. So it's a little bit over threshold. Let's, if it was 300 bees, it'd be somewhere around, instead of 9, it'd be about 10 to 12, something of that nature, the way I kind of calculated out. No Zima load was my value was a 0.1. The national average was a 0.3. Back to the Varroa mite load, the national average was a 2.3. So the what I got out of it is this. I kind of knew, I suspected that my Varroa mite load would be higher this year because of when she took it, and not prior to the formic acid count. And which is good, which kind of tells me, like, from what all the science is coming out about Formic Pro and Amatraz, is that it's not working very well. It's working some, but not a whole lot. Now, I do know that Frank Rarikovich, I had him come in from the Georgia State. He zoomed into our club meeting. It was a little hard for me to listen to him because of there was an echo in the sound system that night. He was stating that if you switched up your treatments, and I don't know whether he's stating, to drop Aprovar for a year and then come back with it another year later or 2 years later, it would work better, is what it's what he was trying to statement. I'm not sure whether I would believe into that too much, but so anyway, that's what I got out of that. Some other interesting, let's see, other interesting stuff. Deformed wing virus type A in emerging bees. It was like the percentile. It's got like a little arrow here. I'm going to say somewhere around 23%. The astral average is 74%. The wingworm virus B, common wing deformed virus in emerging bees. It says becoming more common. Anyway, it's a recombatant of the deformed wing virus A, whatever that amounts to. I'm like at 76%. The national prevalence was 95%. And that kind of stuff. A little high, I would say. But I think it all goes in relationship to how many bees or how many mites are in your hive, as far as, kind of more mites, the more problems you're going to have, the deformed wing virus and stuff like that. It's got a Nosema cerana. The national prevalence is 66%. It says something here about pathogen load copies / bees. It said 52.6 billion. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I'm not really, it doesn't really have a chart here that goes with that. So maybe I don't really actually have that per se. So that's what came back. Yes, my mite load is higher than I liked when the sampling was taking place. The inspector said that we were seeing drone brood in between the frames when we were pulling boxes, and they did have some Varroas in them, and that kind of stuff. So we knew that we had a little bit higher Varroa mite load in the hives. And then also after I put Formic Pro on, and of course I had the Coroplast sticky boards underneath, you could definitely tell there was a lot of Varroa drop after using the Formic Pro. Yeah, Brian, the overall report sounds good. I'm not, totally infested with any large amount of viruses or anything like that. And that kind of thing. It's just the fact that I'm sure I had a lower mite count if she would have tested at the same time of year as she did 3 years ago after Formic Pro. So that's my ideal of it. And if I try to sign up for this maybe next year again, I'm going to try to, it's like Darren was kind of skittish about using Formic Pro in his hives, and now he's kind of got some experience with it. I think he feels a little more confident with it. little bit better understanding. And I think that's where I'm going to be. That's where I'm at right now. And my treatment program is that I've been picking people's, Bill uses AprilGuard. Several other people here on the chat uses AprilGuard. Some folks locally here use it. Been talking to them, and I feel more confident in using that in July, August. I will try to find that window of opportunity in order to place it on the hive. And I presume I'll probably use 25 grams. I would like to use the 33 or the 35 grams and get it done in 3 weeks instead of 4 weeks. But we'll kind of, I think I'll put the 25 in and see the reaction of my bees to it and stuff like that.
Hopefully they won't drag the cards out to the front of the hive.
Huh?
Hopefully they won't drag the cards out and throw them out the front of the hive.
Okay. Brian from Flower Street talks about my apiarist. Her name's Sybil Preston. If you happen to, if you got kids and you happen to see the Disney Channel about working animals, you will find her on that because she has dogs that have been trained by the Maryland State Police to sniff out American foul brood. And
Wow.
I think we are one of very few states in the United States that have bee dogs, sniffing dogs. And she has two of them. One of them has gotten older. He's going to be retired. She actually has 3 dogs. The original dog, and then she was training one dog which didn't make the cut, so she trained another dog, and she has another dog that I think a year or 2 ago fell off a wall mistakenly and broke the leg. And they put some money out for that dog. They thought, either put the dog down and start all over again, and they said no, the state of Maryland put some money towards the vet bill, and all the clubs in the state put money towards the vet bill and went through rehab. And so the dog's up and running, and still can use his capabilities. Yeah, she did. She's got Ryan, she's got a golden retriever. And I can't remember what the dog's name. I thought it was Max. I'm not sure, but there's a couple other ones. And yeah, actually she came here a couple years ago. I had her come out, and I was selling nukes, and the dogs only work in the winter time because they don't want to get stung either, because they smell the hive. And so they work them in the winter time. And she came out right before it got flying weather. I'll say 40 degrees, where the bees will come out and won't come out and fly, and the dogs can smell all the hives. So she cleared all my nukes for, I don't have to get her to do it, but I just asked her to do it, and she inspected my hives with the dogs. And she's been here with one dog. And if the dog smells American foul brood, he'll sit down in front of the hive and all that stuff. But what she does, we do have, I'm going to say, a couple commercial pollinator keepers in the central part of of Maryland. They ship their bees out to California for the almonds, and she'll go out there and she'll work 400 hives in a couple hours with them dogs, where it would take several days to do that by hand, going through each hive individually with a person. The breed of the dog, DC, well, one of them was a golden retriever. I do know that. And one of them's also a cocker spaniel, or I don't know what. I'm not much on the dog breeds and stuff of that nature. Let me see if I had, let me see if I can get into a thing where I can show her.
That's something I wish they had in Virginia.
Yeah. Here it is. Shucks. I don't know whether I can share this or not. Where are we at? Present.
Excuse me.
Share screen.
There you go. Looks like a
Yeah.
Cocker Spaniel, a Golden Retriever, or a Lab.
Yeah, one of them's a lab.
And what's the other one there in the bee suit? That's a Beagle.
The one in the middle was the first dog that she had. And the other two are the most newest dogs that she has. And I think the one off the left is a Cocker Spaniel, you say? Or is that what kind of dog is that? The brown haired one? Bill? What kind of
There's
dog?
one that looks like a Cocker Spaniel.
Okay, I think that was the one that broke its leg. And there's Sybil. She's our bee inspector. And all that. I think that's it. Let's see. I think that's it for that. Stop sharing. Beagle Carniolan mix, huh? And all that. Springer Spaniel. Okay, if you say so. I don't know my dogs very well. Hey, Sandy. But yeah, she's on some videos. Some different people have made videos about it. And then far as like a reward system for that dog, I do know that if it sniffs out American Foul Brood, then it gets to play with like a throw toy type of thing, and that kind of stuff, and all that. But anyway, that's where I'm at with my bees as far as the mite load. I think that next year, if I can get her to come out again, I will have done. I'm going to do April Guard, and let's see. Maryland has had the dog scent inspector since 1985. That's what Ryan says. Ryan's down in Southern Maryland.
So what was your overall mite count? Or do they tell you that?
They just tell you percentages. Well, they told you it was 35 mites in a sampling of 984 bees. They found 35 mites. So Varroa load mites per 100 bees was 3.6.
Yeah, it's right at the threshold.
Well, 3 3s are 9. It'd be 9 mites plus 6. So that's 10, about 11 mites, let's say, instead of 9.
Yeah. That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
No, Brian, she's doing it before Sybil. Well, I mean, Sybil was the hit on her history. She's the head of the state of Maryland bee inspectors. So under her, she has multiple inspectors for different parts of the state, the western part, central state, eastern shore, and central Maryland. And she was one of those inspectors. And then there was a guy before her. Can't think of his name right now. He was the Maryland State Inspector. And then he was Jerry. That's what his name was. He was retiring. And he retired. She got her master beekeeper, EAS master beekeepers certification. Though he had the government hire her to take his place. And so she got that job. And then somehow she got enough money. So the first thing was she didn't have to pay for to get that dog trained, because she's part of the Maryland government. State police is part of the Maryland government. And of course, the dog, you might say, is a employee of the Maryland government, you might say. So what Jerry did? Ryan? Rowell? That's not the same Jerry that I'm thinking of. But anyway, the dog was trained, I'll say, free on her government expenses and all that. But that's how it came about. And she was the one that got it started when it came to the dogs.
Well, Charlie,
That's
it's about
10
that-
o'clock.
It's about that time.
Yep.
Had a good chat tonight. I hope everybody's enjoyed it. Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe. It helps everybody out in the long run. Keeps me hanging around a little longer. And we will see everybody Friday night.
Yep. Friday night.
Oh, wait a minute.
Huh?
I'll be out of town on vacation I'm leaving for vacation Friday. And I'm going to do a quick live Monday night on the 25th. And I won't be on long, but if Charlie can be here to finish it up, that would be great.
Well, the other thing is maybe I'll schedule it on my thing. Well, I've got some rights as an admin. I'm not sure about, I don't got total rights for some reason. I'm not sure. So we'll see what happens. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. All right, everybody. Good night. It's been nice chatting with you. Had some good conversations tonight.
Tell your
Talk to y'all
friends.
later.
We'll catch you later.